but there are certain aspects of this that did work really well for me and that I do want to talk about because those were really important.
Hi, welcome to Simply Intentional. My name is Katie. I'm on a journey to live my most fulfilling life and hopefully inspire others to do the same. Come along as I figure out my 30s one day at a time, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my adventures.
Oh well, hello lovely friends and welcome back. I have been on a brief hiatus doing some traveling, living my best life. I was out on the east coast of Canada and there was a literal mountain of snow everywhere I went, but it wasn't that cold, which is kind of cool, so it was nice actually getting to experience some winter this year, even though it was April. Just spent some time with family, saw a bunch of my friends that I've been missing a lot, and just in general had a great time and severely damaged my liver. Anyways, I am back now. We are going to talk about capitalism, minimalism, and all the lovely things that I always ramble about. What I did want to talk about this week is the fact that minimalism was not for me. I'm sure you guys have seen my apartment tour video. If you haven't, I will link it down below and I will try and add it somewhere here. I'm not very good at that, so if it's not there, the link is down below. Check that out at the end of this video. Yeah. But that is what we will be chatting about this week. I know for like a lot of us, 2020 was a super weird year. And for me, it sort of really put me on this journey that I'm on now, inspired me to make my YouTube channel, start the blog, all that kind of good stuff. But part of that was my journey towards creating a space that I wanted to be in. Like so many of us that were fortunate enough to, I was able to start working from home. And I literally went from the office one day and then never went back again. It was really weird. But with a lot of people, you're spending 24 hours in your home, and I was sort of looking around. I was like, oh, this space isn't really what I want it to be. And I was trying to find who I was. I was really understanding that how I was living and what I was doing wasn't really working for me. And we came along this lovely journey that we're on now. And I started with that Marie Kondo, the life-changing joy of tidying up, or whatever it was. And the Minimalists, that documentary, I watched all of those and I decided that I was going to be a minimalist. And if you know me in real life, you know that that's insane. And it started out great. It started out sort of me going along and actually like going through closets and cupboards, and you know we all have those little corners of our homes that are full of shame and secret. And so I started that. I started emptying out cupboards and closets and going through and getting rid of things that I genuinely needed to get rid of, which was great. That process went really well. Things got really organized and clean, and I was lucky enough to like have the time to do it because I didn't leave my house for like 12 days at one point. That was wild. But yeah, so I ended up sorting through things, getting everything really organized and feeling really good about it. And then I got to a point where I realized like, oh, well, it isn't really minimalist because it doesn't look like what everyone else is doing, and I should have gotten rid of more things, and you know how I feel about shoulds. And so I then just started getting rid of things for the sake of getting rid of them, which to this day I regret. There are things I go to look for and I'm like, don't have that anymore. There are dozens and dozens of books I got rid of, which was probably for the best because I have hundreds of them and moving is not a good time. There's certain ones that I'm sad about now that I kind of regret, and yeah, the worst thing that I did was I started this 30-day challenge, which I was like so excited about, and it's where you get rid of like one thing on day one and two things on day two and blah blah blah, and so on the 30th day you're getting rid of 30 things. Great. But I was just getting rid of things for the sake of getting rid of things to do my dreaded check it off the list, and that sucked. And there's a lot of reasons why it didn't really work for me. One, I'm like a very aesthetic person. I like to have my home with things that I love and cherish and all of that. And being in a messy place is not great for me. I don't love that, right? Like I don't love a cluttered space. I don't like having things piled up in the corners, but I do like to be surrounded by the things that remind me of my adventures, that remind me of my family and friends. And I just like stuff on my walls, you know, like you guys have seen my bedroom tour, like there's a lot of stuff on the walls in there. I love a good gallery wall because, you know, that's what we do as millennials. And I ended up feeling a little bit like my house was kind of soulless towards the end of it, and it really sucked. And then I struggled with it because like clearly it was my fault. I was a failure. Minimalism should be perfect for everyone. And that's not the case. There are genuinely like people I think that could benefit from these philosophies. There are people that just simply acquire too many things in their home and it's stressful, and when you're living in a cluttered space, it's very detrimental to your mental health when you are surrounded by stress, and that clutter physically could end up as mental clutter. And so there are tons of people out there that I'm sure that would have benefited from this, but I'm not really one of those people to accumulate lots of random things. I very carefully curate what I bring into my home, and I like to have my treasures out on display, but to me they are just that. They're treasures. They're things that my dad has bought me back from trips. There are souvenirs from trips that I've taken. There are family member pictures and all that kind of stuff. Things that are meaningful to me. Things that I have made and things that I find beautiful, right? So this wasn't something that worked for me, but I do think there's benefits for a lot of people. And even maybe like putting aside the idea of getting rid of things, there's also the concept of just simply organizing what you have. Like if you have a junk drawer, like go through it every once in a while. All that stuff's great, right? There are pieces of this philosophy that I think can benefit a lot of people. But I'm an aesthetic piece of trash, and I like my things and I love color. And I think that was what was getting to me at the beginning. Was I had a lot of stuff that was like beige and brown and all that kind of stuff, and I needed to understand that that wasn't really for me. There is an earlier YouTube video, I think from 2021, where I realized that I didn't like my brown furniture and I painted it all blue. Still have the blue furniture, loving that. But it really just wasn't for me. I think because I'm so intentional about my space, and like that's just been ongoing most of my adult life. Like now in my early 20s, I lived like a frat boy, because we all do, no shame. But you need to just realize what's for you. And building off that idea of what I talked about in my last video, like you do just have to learn to let things go, and honor those endings. And realizing minimalism wasn't for me was hard, because it's sort of admitting defeat, admitting that you're not gonna be like that perfectly aesthetic, like Instagram girly, and that's fine. I'm not that girl. I look like a feral rabbit most of the time. And I have hundreds of books and knickknacks all over my home, and I love them. But there are certain aspects of this that did work really well for me and that I do want to talk about, because those were really important. And I think that perhaps for a lot of us, instead of just getting rid of things, we need to be more intentional about what we are bringing into our home. Avoiding like cheap knickknacks just for the sake of decorating. One of my pet peeves is the dreaded IKEA art. Don't do that. It's sad. It's so sad. Don't do that. Go and buy something funky from a thrift store or a flea market, or paint something, or support your friends that are artists. We all have friends that are artists. Buy their stuff. It's great. Love a good macrame, because I want my house to feel like a 70s fever dream. But be really intentional about what you're bringing into your home. And this works in two ways. One, it's going to stop you from having excess clutter in your home, because that's not great when you have too much stuff. And also, which was a key aspect for me, is this idea of financial minimalism. If you are not bringing in a ton of extra stuff into your home, you're going to save money. If you aren't out going and buying new clothes for the sake of buying new clothes, just to like have new stuff, then you're going to be saving money, and you can then spend that time and invest in a quality piece when you need to replace something, and not support fast fashion, and not support, you know, like random home decor from Walmart, all that kind of good stuff. And this really worked, because I think a lot of us accumulate mindlessly because we are sold this idea that it's going to bring us happiness, we're going to feel better when we have like this thing or that thing or the new thing, right? And then we just end up in debt with a house full of stuff that we don't really love, that's kind of crappy, and then we're stressed. So I think if you are interested in minimalism, maybe think about the kinds of things that you're buying, the kinds of things that you're bringing into your home, and where you can sort of limit that, where you can sort of bring that down. And try like a no buy month. That was great. That was one of the things I think that was the most life-changing for me, that I found through following this path of like minimalism YouTubes. was a no-buy concept. You just don't buy anything that you don't need for 30 days or however long you do it. I read a book called The Year of Living with Less, which if I can find, I will link something down there below about that. But basically she did a no-buy year, which is intense, but basically no new things. You can replace something if it's broken. You obviously can like pay your bills, buy groceries, get gas, all those kinds of things, but don't buy anything you don't need for a year. I did it for 30 days because I don't have that kind of self-control, but it was really life-changing. Just to actually pause and think about what you need will make such a huge difference for you. And I am like the queen of impulse Amazon purchases, which like I know, Jeff Bezos and all that, but actually having to pause and consider things and like save it to a wish list, write down all the things you thought about buying that month or however long you do it for, and then at the end of the month actually review that list and see what given time you actually still want. And then you won't end up with clutter and mess and all sorts of weirdness going on in your home. But also something that I'm working towards, and you know, I understand it's not possible for everyone, but if you're able to get yourself out of debt and you're able to not mindlessly consume and spend all of your money and actually find some measure of financial freedom and financial stability, the benefits to your mental health are astronomical. And being able to do this and practicing that financial minimalism is how I was able to take off so much time in 2021. For those of you that don't know, before I made the move to where I'm living now, I was living in another city, and I knew I was gonna leave and have to quit the job I was at anyways. I loathed that job. It just wasn't for me. Like I just, with my own values and everything like that, it didn't work for me. Not a bad place to work, not my vibe. But by practicing this financial minimalism and making smart choices for myself in terms of what I wanted to bring into my space, I was able to actually take like 6 months off work. And I get that not everyone can do that, and I'm not trying to say everyone should aim for that. It's very stressful for a lot of people. I loved it. Best 6 months of my life. But I was able to do that, and so then you can have that little bit of a buffer. And I think that for me, a concept that I've really thought about is this idea of like, if we are consuming in excess and we're sort of living in the red financially all the time, then we're trapped in this cycle of sticking with jobs we don't love, of feeling trapped in the life that we're leading. And it's really hard to be intentional when you're living in a scarcity mindset, when you are concerned about how you're going to pay your bills and all of that stuff. And so the best thing that you can do for yourself is to minimize as many expenses as you can and be really careful about like what you are allowing into your life and into your home. And I think that that is something that we could all take. All right, well that is what I have for you today. Got kind of heavy at the end there. That's a concept that I'm going to build on later though, is this idea of like how the system works to keep us in debt, stuck in jobs we don't like, and all of that fun stuff, because like internalized capitalism, you'll be happy if you buy more random stuff, right? No. But I will have another video up for you, probably not next weekend. I'm going away again because it's summer and now I'm busy indefinitely. But probably the week after that, because next weekend I'm going away for my mom's birthday and we're gonna go hiking and we're gonna buy books and eat hollandaise and it's gonna be glorious. As always, I'm so grateful for you to be here. Please let me know what you think down in the comments. Have you tried minimalism? Have you thought about minimalism? Do you think it's crazy? And yeah, chat, let me know if there's anything you want to see me talk about in other videos, or if you missed the vlogs or anything like that. And I will catch you in the next one.